Hey, Chem 1010 students. We are in week 3, and so I wanted to start making recordings for you to make sure you're keeping up with things. This is our eLearn course. Um, Please keep an eye on this page in case there are new news items. If something comes up, I'll usually post it here. I'll also, depending on the urgency, go ahead and send you an email. Keep an eye up here in the upper right to see if you have an orange dot. That means you have an email. So we're going to go into the content of our course. That's at this point, that's what you're working through. You should be finished with the Read Me First, the Getting Started, the introduction. There were a lot of videos and information, a lot of information in this section. If you didn't get a chance to look at it all, please go back and check it out as time permits. You also should be finished with the content for Chapter 1. So Chapter 1 goes hand in hand with your textbook at McGraw-Hill Connect. And what each of these sections do in the content is they give you a little intro to the section and also provide additional videos with additional information, sometimes very much related to what you're learning in the textbook. Sometimes it goes off on little tangents of things that also might interest you. Please be aware you can watch all these videos on fast speed to see if it's something that you would want to come back and spend more time with, that sort of thing. But these are the sections in Chapter 1. Again, each of these, as I click on them, they just gives me a little bit of introduction, maybe an additional video that goes along with that content. So hopefully you're done with that. The after the content under Chapter 1 is a folder. Is after the content for each chapter, there's going to be a folder with the assignments. And so we had a homework assignment and 2 quizzes for Chapter 1, which have already come due. So I think everybody made that due date. So hopefully you made that due date. But there's where you're going to see your Connect assignments. And you should follow these links. You should follow these links. First of all, eLearn keeps track of what you've done, and so it's handy to know if you actually did that assignment. But once you do follow the link, it does take you to our McGraw-Hill Connect site where you can do the activity there. And then those grades are transferred back to your gradebook. After the content, after the homework and quizzes, we have our experiment folder. Now, this hasn't come due as of the making of this video, but it's due tomorrow. It does stay open a little late. I'm going to be very lenient with late experiments this first week because we're all figuring out what to do. But you do have an experiment, and as I click through each of these, it gives me some information about it. So this gives me some background on the experiments, some advice as to how to work on them. If I go on to the next, this is actually what the experiment is. The website, the eLearn site does provide me with something I can print if you want, but these are your instructions. These are your instructions. Now it says go to quizzes to submit this, but if I go back to the Chapter 1 experiment folder, there is a link to it. So this is a link to that quiz. This is where I go to submit my experiment. And so as I click on it, all right, I'm going to start it. Notice that it is, there is no time limit, and it is available until the due date, which is January 31st. It is open a little bit later than that. So once I start it, I'm going to start working on this, and essentially it's just pasting my report. If I want to close this, I can come back to it with no problem because there's no time limit on it. So there's a clock that starts ticking, but it's not going to cut me off. So I can always go back and continue that. And I can get to it by coming up here to the quizzes link. And there's where I'm going to put that. Notice it does mention that I am in progress with an attempt. So you can see your attempts here. If I go back to content, it's going to take me back to where we were. We were looking at that experiment 1, watch your due dates. Each chapter also has a reflection paper. And so this is information about the reflection paper. Again, starting with just some background about it. I did post a little bit of more general information about the reflection paper. I think I sent that to you in an email. As you're working on this, one common question students have is, how long does it have to be? Well, that's check your email. Check your email because I kind of answer that. Um, this is the instruction for the reflection paper, so this is what you're writing on. These are ways to cite your reflection paper, and I mentioned in the email, I'm not going to be too picky about that as long as I can find it. I do need to be able to find that reference that you provided. And then again, once you finish your reflection paper, I'm coming back out here to the folder for reflection paper. There is the link to submit it. That takes me to the Dropbox. All right, and I'm just going to upload my file. If I need to leave any comments for my instructor, I'll do it here, but please note that your instructor will not get these comments until she sits down to grade them. So if it's an urgent comment, you need to reach out by email or something like that. Post a message on the discussion board. So this is, again, information about that first reflection paper. So it's the link to submit it is here in your Chapter 1 reflection paper submodule. But you also can get to that up here along the top at the Dropbox. So your reflection papers go into the Dropboxes. There's your reflection paper Dropboxes as the semester proceeds. This little icon means that it is going to be checked with Turnitin, which essentially scours the web and looks to see if you have plagiarized. All right, don't plagiarize. If you ever use references, you always want to rewrite them, put them in your own words. I think once you submit a paper, you can see your score, and if the score is too high, and there's still time, I'll give you an option to rewrite your paper. Otherwise, it's going to be scored very poorly if you end up copying a lot from the internet. So don't copy a lot from the internet. All right. You also this week, as you're working on that lab and the reflection paper, you're getting started on Chapter 2. And we can see down here the links for Chapter 2 are very similar. Again, a little bit of background when I first click on that. These are the content pages which walk me through each section, providing me with some additional information and some videos that I might find interesting. Here are where your Chapter 2 homework and quiz links are, so watch your due dates. These are due February 11th, coming up next week, depending on when you watch this. Chapter 2 experiments are right here. Just how do you measure up? There's some additional information in a video. I'll talk more about this on the weekend because it's not due until February 15th. But be thinking ahead about these. And then Chapter 2 reflection paper. Here is the instructions for your reflection paper, and then the link to submit it. So each chapter is going to work very similarly as I go down. And after the first 2 chapters, we do have our first chapter exam. And so it takes us to our McGraw-Hill Connect site where we will be taking our first chapter exam. So hopefully this helps get you a feel for what's going on. Oh, and one other thing, you can always see this schedule up here in Getting Started course schedule. So this is what's going on. We're here in the week of January 29th. We're finished with Chapter 1 material that came due over the weekend. We're working on Chapter 2, and we're wrapping up Experiment 1 in the reflection paper, which is due tomorrow as of the writing of this. So please try to get those in. And then next week, as we continue Chapter 2, we're going to be doing those homework and quizzes and studying for the exam, which comes up the week of February 12th. We will have an experiment and a reflection paper due the same week as the exam, so you might want to think about getting a jump on those. Hopefully that helps.